too much. So one of the main missions of Caregiving Cafe support groups, which is something that I started because I saw the need for it, was to empower family caregivers. We do so with education, camaraderie, self-care, and a reminder that we are all amazing. So let's talk about how to stay that way. We take self-care very seriously at Caregiving Cafe. I'd like to talk about choosing to thrive in caregiving today, and how do we do that? Because personally for me, surviving is just not good enough. I don't think that we were meant to just get by. I strongly believe we were meant to thrive. And those of you who have met me, I think you've heard me say that once or twice before. So how do we do this? How do we thrive? We need to start with, and let me just remind you, I'm not a professional. I have a degree in fashion merchandising, but I have learned a lot, way too much, and more than I ever thought I would, through caregiving for my parents and my husband for 12.5 years now. So I have this very strong calling, I guess, to be of service. And after seeing what happened to my mother while she was taking care of my dad, who ended up passing away 4 months later from multiple myeloma, I thought, no, this is cruel. And I saw what was happening to my mother. So when it became my turn, right when my dad died, my husband was getting sick in 2008. I said, I'm not going to let that happen to me. And I know I'm not the only one. So I want to connect the family caregivers to resources and to each other. And that is the mission of Caregiving Cafe. So we start out, my plan, the way I've seen it and learned from other caregivers and professional speakers on various topics, is how to thrive. And how do we do that? We start by having the right perspective. And I happen to run across a poem that is, it really sums it all up. And we really do need a good perspective in life to manage it better, but especially in caregiving, because we're faced with so many things that we've never dealt with before. So this poem is called The Man Who Thinks He Can, but I took the liberty of adjusting that title to The Caregiver Who Thinks He or She Can. And the original poem is by Walter D. Wintle, and it goes like this. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you want to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out of the world we find success begins with a person's will. It's all in a state of mind. Life's battles don't always go, though, to the stronger and faster human, but sooner or later, the people who win are the ones who think they can. So I found that really summarizes a really healthy way to look at life, because life brings a lot of things that we never planned to, never dreamed of. And yet here we are dealing with it, or are we dealing with it? So perspective helps you step back from your situation so that you can get a better look at the whole problem, instead of just being in a little dark corner that often seems dark, and we feel lost and overwhelmed and helpless and like a victim. And that is a horrible way to feel. I saw my mother live a lot of years feeling that way. And, you know, I have felt that way briefly. And let me tell you, I did not like it. So what I did was, and I have learned again from other professionals who know much more than I do, that perspective in life is all about how we choose to see a situation. And believe it or not, we have that choice. Sometimes we forget that when we're in the middle of all these different things and important decisions that we need to make. and all the responsibilities of caregiving. Because we all know that caregiving is not just about the medical side. There's so much more that we do, and you are all doing it or have done it before. You have the capability to change your life with the right perspective. There's a little story here that I came across, another one, and these are anecdotes that better illustrate my point. There was a couple, Jide and Sandra, who lived in the slums of a crowded city of Lagos in Nigeria, where houses are built facing each other, and you can see each other pretty easily. And they have ropes to hang your laundry. And that's how you see, you know, literally you see everybody's laundry being aired out. So this lady, Sandra, kept noticing this particular neighbor who proudly hung out these dingy whites that were really yellow and dirty and not a pretty thing to look at. Then one day, Sandra peered through the window and saw that the whites were bright as day. So she ran to her husband and told him, you know, brought him to the window and said, look, these whites, you know, finally she did something right. And then the husband, who was shocked, said to Sandra, no, my dear, I actually cleaned the windows you were supposed to clean 3 months ago. So what changed here was the lens through which Sandra was seeing things. It was dirty, and in caregiving and in life, sometimes these lenses are dirty with stress, with lack of help, no answers. You know, most of us are thrown into caregiving. I know that when I turned 18 and decided I wanted to go to college, one of the options was never, I want to be a family caregiver for a disabled husband. Okay, that was not an option. Didn't even dream of it, but here we are. You know, and many of us take care of loved ones, parents, you know, relatives, children. So our perspectives can be like those of Sandra, viewing a window through a window that really needs cleaning, and it's cluttered by all these stresses and experiences that are not always pleasant. So what we can do is use the good experiences that bring joy and strength, and apply those to our way of life and our responsibilities. So remember that life is what you make it, and having the right perspective will preserve calm and encourage you to come up with ways to move forward. Our perspective, and I practice what I preach, okay? And I feel that I am a successful caregiver. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that I don't cry or get angry, but I don't ask why, because I don't have an answer for that. But my perspective is always, well, 99.9% of the time positive. Our perspective, especially as caregivers, when we're dealing with the unknown, is I got this. But how do we get there? So firstly, we need to believe in ourselves. I think we all do, but we kind of forget. We need to remind ourselves that we are amazing. We truly are. We don't have all the answers, but who does? We need to believe that we can find those answers somehow, okay, with help. We don't do this alone. We need to believe in ourselves and in something that is going to get us to where we need to be. This path that is covered by all kinds of debris that they block our way, okay? So there are different ways to get through to this path, to the light at the end of the tunnel, and it can be through faith. That works for me, for my family, through friends, through fellow family caregivers, through support groups where you can meet more family caregivers, through education, which is what you will be gaining today as well. We all have the power of possibility within us. we need to take a few minutes to find it and to use it, because we need to use whatever we have available, and we need a lot of things in caregiving. So caregiving can feel like we have no choice, like we have no clue about what to do, no escape. We did not ask for a loved one to be sick, okay? And we did not ask to be a family caregiver, but we're doing it anyway. I believe in destiny, but it's really about what you believe. And destiny chose us because we do have what it takes to take care of our loved ones and to be amazing, compassionate, loving, practical, successful family caregivers. You and your loved ones are one team with one goal, and that is to support your caree through this phase, through this chapter. Destiny never said to do this alone or that it was going to be easy. Help to do this caregiving thing is out there, and you're going to meet some of those people who will help us get there. We need to go after the help and use it. But it all starts with our decision to succeed, our positive attitude and perspective, our choice to thrive. We also need to be grateful. And I know that this is not the first time you hear this. And I think, okay, gratitude, okay, thank you. I mean, I thank God for a parking lot close to the entrance of HEB, okay? But it's much more than that, although everything counts. And I've said this many times before because I mean it. I am grateful that the caree is not me. Not that I'm not saying, oh, well, I'm glad it's you, mom or dad or my husband, that you're sick. No, not that way. But really, we could be the ones that are bedbound. And I have also said many times that when we are tired, ready to drop dead, although, okay, that's, I guess, a pun intended, Nancy Walker, but, and she'll show you how to do it sensibly. But when we're so tired and we're like, okay, I've heard caregivers, I pat my back, I'm so ready to run away. When we're feeling that low, that is when we need to be grateful and say, thank you for allowing me to be this tired, because that means I am this able. I have my abilities and my loved one does not. Okay, so I was going to show you a picture of my husband's rough foot, but lucky for you, I didn't know how to do it, but it is a drop foot. He's in pain all over, and the skin is scaly, pieces of skin falling off. He can't move it. His toenails get sometimes to a half inch to an inch long. It's too painful to trim. It's like, oh my gosh. So, thank you that I am able to help him. As tired as I get, it's nowhere near what the suffering that he's dealing with. And, many of our loved ones are going through that as well. One of the other things that is very important is humor. We joke every single day. As he's really suffering, as many of our loved ones suffer, we suffer too. And it is very okay to allow yourself to laugh, even if it's for 1 minute, because we all know it creates all these good chemical things in our body, chemical reactions. And we need that because we need to stay strong. Nobody needs a weak, tired, exhausted caregiver, which many of us are. And that is why it is great to attend these workshops, these symposia, so that we can learn from each other, learn tips to get through this, and also attend support groups. Any support group is great. So remember, again, you have a choice in how you live your life, and you have a choice in seeking resources and help, Age of Central Texas, Area Agency on Aging, Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Texas, all of these, any support group, disease-focused support groups are there to help all of us, as well as the presenters that will be joining us today. And I am thankful for all the resources. In caregiving, we also need to be resilient, and we need to adapt to our situation, because the only constant is truly change in caregiving. Often it is change for the worse. So we need to keep ourselves positive and moving forward, but we also need to help our loved ones, our carees, positive as best they are able to do so. And through education, we can learn about what they are able to do rather than what we expect them to do or what they were able to do before, because we need to communicate with them the way they are today. We need to be their cheerleader. We need to be cheerleaders for ourselves, but also for our loved one. Okay, I'm keeping track of the time here, and I want to make sure, because I'm known to talk way too much. So, okay, how do we learn to be adapt? We need to be flexible. We need to take what is and view it for what it is, but it doesn't mean that you give up hope for something better. Hope is always there. We need hope to move forward, but we also need to be realistic. If somebody honestly cannot walk and you're expecting them to get up and walk, it's not going to happen. And then we will be frustrated, and so will our loved one. So we go get the help that we need. We look for it. Talk to me, talk to any of us here. The presenters can guide you, can provide information and resources. But we need to get whatever we need to help our loved ones, and always hope for something better, for a good day, okay? And when you have that ability, that line of thinking in your head, we get through life more easily. So in order to be resilient, which means bouncing back from difficult situations, we need to first start with self-awareness. And what that means is stop and ask yourself, how am I doing right now? Okay, am I feeling okay? Am I feeling euphoric? Am I feeling so exhausted that I cannot take another step? And then think about what happened that made me feel this way, and what can I do about it? Okay, and sometimes it's just a matter of taking 10 minutes with a little bit of time management that we all need to do in caregiving. We can make 10 minutes. Take them and stop. And you can do deep breathing, you can do meditation. For me, I just stop. I don't even listen to music. I want quiet in my house, because my brain is always going, as is all of ours, planning, anticipating. And just stop your mind, calm your mind. Everybody who knows me knows I love to dance, I love music, you know, whatever. I have rediscovered the Supremes. Oh my gosh. What about a pick-me-up? It's like, oh my gosh, I am happy instantly. Give me 2 notes and I'm happy. And we need that positivity to get through the day, to face whatever adversity we're going to be facing. And it's not always bad. We always need to look for the good things. So there's something good out of every single situation, no matter how dark the moment. I call those challenges lessons, and they're here for a reason. Learn from them, because those who have a faith, and I believe that God has granted us everything we need to get through whatever challenges we face. And if you believe in a different belief system, there's a power out there, the power of the universe or Mother Nature, that also has done that for us, because nobody wants to see anybody suffering. I am almost out of time, so I remind you that you as family caregivers are the CEOs of your own caregiving situation. I'll be done in 1 second. Maybe if I can stop this, okay? You are in charge of your own caregiving situation. You know best what it takes to do things. And that doesn't mean that we're in complete control or that we have all the answers, but it is up to every individual caregiver to put that caregiver hat on, the chief caregiving officer of your own caregiving situation, and go get the resources. Start by talking to the people who will be presenting today, and choose to thrive. Choose to use the talents and gifts and expertise that you have, because you have them. Pull them out. And remember that hope is always there. That is always a light at the end of the tunnel. Even it may be around the corner. The tunnel might go like this. It's out there, and know that it's out there. Do it with the help and resources that are available, and give yourself a hand, a pat in the back for doing what you're doing. Thank you.
We can hear you fine.
You can still?
Yes, we hear
Okay.
you just fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
This
That's
is
very,
Julie.
okay, that's very consoling. Our service area includes Bastrop, Caldwell, Hayes, Travis, and Williamson County. And everything that we do is all done by volunteers. A very good-hearted bunch of people talking about a very unpopular topic. All right, so caring conversations begin with our making choices. So we need to think over first within our own minds what kinds of medical care we would or would not want toward the end of life. And then once we have done that, it's really important to share that information with the key people in our lives, our caregivers, or in the case of you're trying to draw this information out of carees, it's important that they share their choices with you, with their medical team, and so forth. And then documenting. Debbie talked a good bit about the importance of documents such as the directive to physicians. That's the name in Texas for the living will, where you specify what kind of end-of-life care you would or you would not want. And then that all-important appointment of a healthcare agent, which and then our thoughts about what we would want done with our remains after we die. So if you're taking notes, this is a website that you want to jot down. It's the website of the Funeral Consumers Alliance, fcactx.org, because all of the forms that I'm going to be talking about are out there on our website. Excuse me, just go to the home page and you'll see a tab at the top called Directives, and just click on that and you'll find these directives and a whole lot more. Now, the important thing to keep in mind as we make our own choices and we listen to the choices of our caree and other people with whom we want to have these discussions, understand that the choices people make are so deeply rooted in their values and their priorities. And it can be difficult when the choices that we would make for ourselves would be substantially different from the choices that another person would make. But, you know, even within ourselves, I think our choices change over a lifetime. For example, you know, and in a perfect world, everyone 18 and older completes advanced directives, right? So let's just say someone 28 completed their medical directive, and they thought to themselves, well, gee, I have 3 young children that I'm responsible for. So when I'm filling out this directive to physicians, I'm going to request that they do everything, putting me on a ventilator. It's so important that I not die at this time in my life. Okay, so now move forward 60 years, and this person is now 88 years old. Perhaps they're not in perfect health. They have some chronic or irreversible conditions. The quality of their life is not what it was. Now, when they revisit this very same form, the directive to physicians, they go like, well, I'm just not really all that sure I would be want to be put on a ventilator. Who knows? I might be in a coma for 6 months, and when I come out, I might not even be the same person that I was when they hooked me up to the ventilator. So I'll tell you what, this time on the form, I'm going to say, no, don't do that. So see how as our life cycles move, thing is true with the other people, including our carees. So first, think about having these conversations and what would be the ideal environment. Well, you want a place where everybody feels comfortable, and that the conversations can take place without distractions and interruptions. And I think it's really important going in that it's sort of open-ended. You have time to talk, not just about these end-of-life care questions, but other questions that can sort of lead into those more difficult questions. The important thing is not to feel that anything is rushed. And I put that little graphic on the screen because there's actually a website called Death Over Dinner. Have you heard about that? Death Over Dinner? It's a place where families can go and get hints as to how to sort of set up and arrange a death over dinner conversation. And there are some funeral homes in the Austin area who are actually inviting people to come to restaurants and enjoy meals while listening to their pitch about the importance of end-of-life planning. So somehow food does go with leisurely conversation and comfortable place, unless you're being interrupted constantly by the wait staff. I think the most important thing on this screen, though, to remember is typically to really get a feel for what a person's philosophy of life is and when it might be time to just let go. It's so important that this be allowed to occur over a series of conversations. I really can't imagine covering enough ground that when you're finished, you can complete all the medical directives, because the conversation about who might be best suited to be your medical agent, that is a multifaceted conversation, because you don't want to just pick anyone. But I'll talk a little more about that later. So if you just take the conversation in bits and pieces, don't be disappointed if you can't get it all done. Did I hear a comment? Was there a question, or is the sound still coming through? Okay, let's move. These conversations about end-of-life matters is memories. And look at that nice old record. Is that a 78 or is that a 33? Whatever it is, it's from the old days, that's for sure. And then there's also a graphic of a photo album. So let's just take, for example, the photo album. Here's an example of how you might ease into talking about end of life matters, going through the photo album, perhaps you get to a picture of Uncle Joe. And here's Uncle Joe in his salad days when he was feeling really good, but time moved on. And in fact, Uncle Joe died and everybody went to the funeral. So here would be a chance to reminisce about what a wonderful guy, or not, that Uncle Joe was. Okay, so there you've gone into the topic of funeral planning, kind of through talking about Uncle Joe and asking, you know, what do you remember about Uncle Joe's funeral service? Or was there something about that service that you thought was really well done? And see what the answer to that might be. Was there anything that you might recall about Uncle Joe's service or anybody else's service that you thought, you know, that was just so wrong? I wouldn't want that at my service. And so that's how that's just one example of how you can ease from a general memory into getting more topic specific. Now, I can't say enough good things about this group called the Conversation Project. And everything they have out there is free to download. This is the besides the FCA website, this is the other website address that I would encourage you to jot down. And please notice, isn't it interesting, the word "the" is actually in the website address, theconversationproject.org. And the woman who founded it, I just think this is the most wonderful quote, that the project emphasizes having a conversation on values, what matters to you or your caree or another family member, not what the matter is with you. Don't you love that? Okay, so these are the three most popular booklets or guides that the Conversation Project offers to the public, and you can go out there, find what you want, and download it. Isn't that fantastic? And the first guide that they started with is the one on the left. It's called Your Conversation Starter Kit. This kit is available in so many languages. It's incredible. Not just English and Spanish, but Vietnamese, Portuguese, German, you name it. Also have it available as an audio recording that a person can listen to the questions that are in the booklet and the guidance in the booklet. If there are reading challenges, or somehow it's just easier to listen or to look at the booklet and listen. They've really bent over backwards to supply the community with these wonderful discussion tools. In the middle, you see the cover of a conversation starter kit to be used in a situation where families and loved ones have a caree with Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia. Because at that point, your caree is not going to be able to just zip through all those questions and answer them in a way that may be useful to you. So this and tips. And then the third booklet, this is the one to help identify characteristics of a competent medical agent who will speak for you. And the medical agent's duties click in when the patient or caree, for any number of reasons, is not able to speak for himself or herself. They could be in a coma, for example, or they could be delirious, or they just for any reason that they're not able to competently express their wishes, this is when the agent becomes involved. Okay, going back to the first kit, the general one that's available in about 100 million different languages. This kit will help you prepare to discuss your medical and end-of-life care with sidebar pitch here. Not only is it desirable to help your caree express their end-of-life wishes and complete documents, if that's realistic. What about you? I remember going back to, I'm encouraging everyone in all states of health, if you're over 18, there's no reason why not to complete these directives. Okay, and again, this general conversations kit can help you guide someone else through the process. There it is. I just keep putting that website on there because I really want you to jot it down. So what kind of medical care questions? As far as the Texas Directive to Physicians, Advanced Directive, questions drill down on those situations. As I mentioned before, in many other states, this very same document is called the Living Will. And this is where you specify what kinds of treatment you do or do not want in certain situations. So the two situations that the directive brings up specifically, excuse me, are you have a terminal illness, okay? And officially that's defined as statistically, chances are that with a terminal illness, you will pass away in 6 months or less. Although I hasten to say that does not obligate anyone with a terminal illness to die within 6 months or less. But that also is a qualification for admission to hospice care. Or, here's the second condition, you have an irreversible, it is impacting what tasks and so forth you're able to do in your daily life. Like, are you still able to dress yourself and toilet yourself and so forth? Okay, so those are the two health scenarios, and these are the questions that the directive asks for each of those scenarios. Basically, would you want to be put on a ventilator or breathing machine to prolong your life? Yes or no? And then the other health condition, would you want a feeding tube or some other form of artificial nutrition and hydration if you were unable to eat or drink on your own? So actually the focus of the Texas Living Will is pretty narrow, but I do want to point out that there's this wonderful space on page 2, a supplemental area where you can write in there, please see attached documents, and you can say any additional thing that you want about your health care. You can attach a supplemental directive having to do with anticipation of Alzheimer's disease. You can attach the kinds of forms that Debbie was talking about. Conditions, and you check whether you would or you would not want that. All those can be added to the Texas form, and the way you hook it to the Texas form is on page 2 when it says supplemental requests. That's where you write in that you are attaching supplements. Okay, I mentioned that there was a conversation starter kit for families with loved ones dealing with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. So that is also available for download from the site. And then their third booklet, the one that helps you figure out who you would want to pick as your healthcare proxy, or to use the Texas terms, your medical agent. And believe me, that you give to someone when you also give them a trip to the Bahamas. I'm doing this wonderful thing for you. Here are these airline tickets. And also, because I love you and I want you to have an easy, relaxing time, I'm going to ask you to be my healthcare agent. A healthcare agent needs to be able to express in all kinds of situations to all kinds of people, including healthcare providers, what the patient would want if the patient could speak for himself or herself. And hospital environments can be a bit intimidating. So you need a healthcare agent. I wouldn't exactly say a pit bull, but somebody that can be persistent and be clear, which is why the patient and the healthcare agent really need to have some deep soul-searching discussions until the agent really feels that he or she gets it. You get what the healthcare philosophy of the patient is, so that you can express it. And I can't say how important it is to have at least one backup or alternate agent, and there's a place on the form for that, because there are any number of reasons why the first person that you select may not be able to serve if and when the time comes. They could be out in the middle of the ocean on a tramp steamer, and they turn their cell phone off and there's no way to get in touch with them. They could be actually lying in the intensive care unit next to you because you and your healthcare agent were in a serious car wreck together. Whew, how about that? Or it's possible that the first person you chose, when the time comes, they just feel like they're not up to it. There's any number of reasons why you might go to a secondary backup alternate agent. So therefore, it's good to have this in-depth discussion with your alternate. You know, in a perfect world, you would have your primary agent and your alternate agent in the room with you, and the three of you have the discussion. And more family members too, if you like. The more people that know what's going on, the better it is. These are the kinds of questions that would need to be discussed. And there at the bottom of the screen is the related directive. Again, these directives are on the FCA-CTX website under the Directives tab. And then finally, no matter what, eventually, guess what? We're all going to die. The universal mortality rate is holding steady at 100%, and yet so many people still feel uncomfortable talking about death. But it's a fact, so just like birth, so it's better to give it some thought and talk about it a bit. I guess the core question here is at least to find out what a person wants in terms of their disposition. Do they want their body to be buried in a casket? Or do they want to be cremated? And if they're cremated, there are a lot of things. Cremated remains can be scattered, but they can also be put in an urn and they can be buried. I just finished doing the 2020 cemetery survey for the Funeral Consumers Alliance, and was told by numerous cemeteries that at least 3 urns could be interred in one typical burial plot. It's big enough that they would just keep opening the same plot, then they'd add another urn, then later they would add another urn, and so forth. So urns are buried all the time. Or they can be put in columbarium niches. See, there's all kinds of choices to be made. And there are 2 directives relating to that. They're little companion pieces. just like the directive to physicians is the what I want done, and the medical power of attorney is who do I want to speak for me. We have 2 disposition directives. The body disposition one, again, it's easy to fill out, and you specify what you want done with your remains, and then the appointment for disposition of remains appoints an agent to make sure that your wishes are carried out. All right, I know there's a lot of questions. There's things that we haven't talked about. You do have legal rights when calling or visiting a funeral home. I bet y'all didn't, not everybody knows that. There are a lot of questions about, should I purchase a prepaid funeral contract? If you're over 65, I don't know how many mailings you've gotten from the Neptune Society, but I have so many, I've made a necklace out of them. And then, of course, what do funerals cost? So often, if people don't talk about any of this until someone passes away, they just go with a local funeral home that someone recommends or the family has used or is around the corner, so to speak, and that can end up costing more money than maybe you are comfortable spending. So this is a sample page out of our funeral home price survey. We go out and pick up price lists from every funeral home in the 5 counties that we serve. We bring their price lists back and we put them in a chart so that you can compare. And I'm telling you, I give this sample page out everywhere I go, and people's jaws just drop. Just as one example, if you decide you would like just to be cremated and have a memorial service afterwards at some place of your choosing that does not involve the funeral home, you just want them to come get your body, put you in refrigeration for a little while, and then cremate you and notify the family when your ashes are ready to pick up. That's called direct cremation. Well, in our service area, you can pay as little as $595 for that service, or we have another funeral home in Austin that charges over $4,000 for exactly the same thing. So we think it's important that people be aware of prices so that they can compare and hopefully save some money. This is our little rack card that you can look for when you pick up your goodie bag that will be provided sometime after this in the next week or so. And again, here's my last invitation to write down the 2 websites that I think will be very useful for you. And I want to see now if I can show you real quick. I've just thought of doing this after. Is this on the screen? This is our directives page. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Great. All right. I'm telling you, this is a treasure trove. We don't, I do want to say that the Funeral Consumers Alliance does not get involved in the financial side of planning because we're not attorneys, we're not accountants, and people are very touchy about their money. I think they're more touchy about their money sometimes than they are about the care of their bodies. So here are the different directives. Here's the directive to physicians. I mentioned that we had a supplemental directive for planning for what happens if I have dementia. There's a lot of choices there. It was developed by an attorney who is our president emeritus. All these are free and available for download. Here's the medical power of attorney form. Here is the HIPAA form that Debbie mentioned. I mean, you're in a funny situation if you have a medical agent, but if you didn't do a HIPAA form, your medical agent is the only person that your healthcare team will talk with. And sometimes you don't necessarily want your medical agent to be your spouse because your spouse might be too emotionally wrapped up in the situation. Here is a medical decisions worksheet that's similar to the one that Debbie talked about. Here is the out of hospital do not resuscitate form. And here are the 2 disposition directives that I mentioned. All right, and then this is really handy. You can download this and fill it out and fold it up so it's the size of a credit card. It has a lot of information on it, emergency information wallet card. Okay, I've probably gone a little over my time, but I feel satisfied that I've told you everything that I currently want you to know that I could fit in.
All right, so you can stop your sharing,
Okay.
your screen, and we can see you again.
I will try. Hang on a second.
Uh-huh.
Oh, for all I know, I'll disconnect myself.
Marie, I'll introduce Casey live.
Okay.
Can you turn?
Where can I go for help and support? Welcome. I'm glad that you've joined me today, and I hope that you find this presentation useful. A little bit about the age of Central Texas. We help older adults and their caregivers thrive as they navigate the mountains and opportunities of aging and caregiving. Our Thrive Social and Wellness Centers are social clubs for older adults who need more support during the day or just want to spend time with others. We are currently offering online programs and are accepting new clients for virtual services. When we do meet in person, we offer services in Round Rock and in Central Austin. Memory Connections is a small group structured brain exercise and emotional support program for older adults living with early stage dementia. It's an opportunity to connect with others who are facing similar challenges and have fun. We are currently offering small group virtual services and we're looking for new clients to join us. Our Caregiver Resource Center has information, resources, support, and education for older adults and caregivers. Seminars similar to this one and 2 caregiver conferences are offered virtually, and our staff is reachable by phone. Caregiver U offers professional training for the family caregiver. We have new online classes, and when we meet in person, we have 3 evidence-based curricula offered in the 4-county area. Classes are open. All the time, so please check our website to see what we're offering currently. Help has free durable medical equipment and incontinence supplies for anyone who needs them. We are currently operating, so please give us a call or an email if there's something that you need. Our computer lab has fear-based computer classes taught by older adults for older adults, and they're teaching virtual classes as well. As we all know, both the body and the brain change as people age. Parts of the brain may shrink, especially areas important to complex mental activities. Communication between neurons and nerve cells may reduce. Blood flow to the brain may decrease. Inflammation may increase, such as when the body responds to an injury or disease. The brain remains able to adapt to new changes and tasks. And it's not clear why some people's brains age better than others. Cognitive reserve may play a role. That's the brain's ability to work well, even when some part of it is disrupted. Signs of brain change as we age that everyone can expect as we're getting older include increased difficulty with words, more challenges with multitasking, it may take longer to complete tasks. There may be a slight decrease in the ability to pay attention, and there may be a harder time finding things that are used often, such as keys or glasses. It's important to know that individuals still learn new things, create new memories, and improve vocabulary and language skills. Scientists have found that given enough time, older adults do as well in complex memory or learning tests as younger people. In fact, as they age, healthy adults usually improve in areas of mental ability such as vocabulary. While certain areas of thinking do show a normal decline as we age, others remain stable. I'd like to go through different aspects of cognitive function and how some things are likely to remain stable, whereas other things might change. So for intelligence, crystallized intelligence is likely to remain stable, and that's knowledge or experience accumulated over time. Whereas fluid intelligence might experience some changes. Those are abilities that are not listed in experience. So thinking and multitasking. Long-term memory is relatively preserved, so things that have been stored over many years, whereas short-term memory is more likely to be affected in the aging process. That could be recent memory or formation memories, and it may also take longer to learn information than before, which could involve here significant times. Simple or focused attention tends to remain stable, so the ability to watch a television program, whereas divided attention may be more challenging, so it may be difficult to pay attention to TV and simultaneously talk on the phone. In language, we may see the vocabulary is preserved. However, it may take longer to find the right word that may be more difficult as well. Reasoning and problem solving, the wisdom of experience in life means that older adults are likely to be able to solve problems that they did before, whereas new problems that they haven't before may take longer to figure out. In processing speed, we might see a decrease. For example, it may take more time to take in information and formulate a response. There may be more challenges with complex tasks that require a lot of quick information processing. Driving is an example of this, because you have to continually notice and process a lot of information and quickly formulate. What are the differences between serious problems of memory or cognition and those that we can expect from people as we age? Well, serious problems make it hard to do the things that we do every day. Symptoms include asking the same questions over and over, getting lost in familiar places, not being able to follow instructions, becoming confused about
I am getting comments that people cannot see or hear. Is that correct? If you put that into chat, and then I will move on if that's the case. This will be posted on YouTube channel so that we can get the full benefit of her presentation.
time, people, preferences.
Marie, it is hard to hear and we are not seeing Casey.
She is just showing her clips. We're not seeing her on what she sent in her video.
Okay, we're not seeing her video at all.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I am sorry about that. I've no idea why.
Would you like me to introduce?
Caregivers to share their insights, because this is a group thing. I very much believe it takes a village to share our insights to help each other, and you never know when you're going to pick up a word of wisdom or two. So I have two responses from two different caregivers with a very different caregiving situation. So I will read to you what Melissa sent me. All right, so let me put it over here. Okay, and this is from a family caregiver, Melissa, who attends Caregiving Cafe regularly. She's a long distance family caregiver for her mother, I believe is in South Carolina, and she goes back and forth every so often to see how things are doing. She has two sisters over there. And she wanted to share some insights about placing a loved one in senior living. And first she said, these are all her words, do your research. Check with regulating agencies about any infractions the facility may have incurred. Check to see if the facility has undergone any name changes in order to have a quote unquote fresh start. Visit the facility without your loved one, then visit them and have a meal there if possible to sample the food and observe interactions of staff with residents. And remember, the most expensive facility is not always the best one. Once you have chosen your facility, visit often at different times of the day. Ingratiate yourself to the staff and be kind. I might add, visit on the weekend as well. Be patient with your loved one. Be compassionate. One of the things that really resonates with me is about preserving my mom's dignity in all of this. Put yourself in their shoes. I had a tough day on the 4th of July. My mom thought I was there in North Carolina and kept talking about my dad and me helping take care of things at their home. After some time alone to pray, the Lord impressed upon me that it was okay for mom to think that daddy was still alive and that I was there to help. If that's where she wants to park her mind and she's happy and content with that, there's no better place for her to be. So meet them where they are and don't correct them about every detail. And lastly, the Amazon Echo show has been a lifeline for me being out of state, and especially while my mom was in quarantine in the COVID unit they set up. It allows me to talk to and see my mom, talk with aides when they are in her room, and advocate on behalf of my mom. I included a picture of the show that I have. It does require internet service, so that is a consideration for being able to have the device. Also, I have been reminded in my grief share class that I've been doing in the class that she's been doing, that we all handle things differently. So we need to be patient with each other. We each have our own strengths, and we try really hard to work together for the benefit of my mom. So that was from Melissa, and I said South Carolina, but it's actually in North Carolina. So if I may, I would like to also share some insights from Julia. She also used to attend Caregiving Cafe regularly over the past several years, but right now her husband is on hospice and things are very, very serious, and she's exhausted, and this is what she offered. I've been swamped here at home with my sick husband on hospice and zero help for me. My crisis management continues to intensify. I am very tired. The very first thing that comes to my mind for caregiving is this. You need to have all of your legal documents in place already before the health crisis worsens. I've been caregiver to my husband for 10 years now, mostly doing it all alone. I've had to learn a whole lot very fast. I made a lot of mistakes. There's no transition time, no room for assumptions, scarcely time to research elder attorneys once a health crisis strikes. I had no idea exactly what or which legal documents should be in place. And Lord knows we are seniors. Medical power of attorney and living will or directives to physicians are a bare bones minimum. But you really need to have the other legal documents already executed and signed and maybe officially processed before any health issues strike. If not, then don't waste a minute of time. At least get the basic documents done by an attorney ASAP. Estate planning and having legal documents in place is the wisest thing a caregiver can do. If not ahead of the crisis, then right away before things get worse. Start networking to find an attorney. Review what legal documents you have in place already. There often needs to be updating. Networking with other caregivers helps. Get an attorney who is experienced. I must add, not all attorneys are elder law attorneys. That's the kind you want. Don't procrastinate. Regrets are no fun. And lastly, Julia said, be good to yourself. So there you have a couple of sets of insights from family caregivers, both long distance and local. And take that to heart. I did not pay them to say this, so they really mean it. And I hope that all of these tips help you somehow. Thank you.